The goal of the vacation rental photos is to get someone to look at the photos, imagine themselves in the photos, then spend the money to go there, and lastly, step into the space and be like, wow, this is exactly like the photos.
This is episode number 21 of Short-Term Rental Success Stories podcast. Welcome back to Short-Term Rental Success Stories. I'm your host, Julian Sage. This is a show where I talk to hosts about their journeys in starting and growing their short-term rental business. My goal is that you'll be able to walk away with practical information that'll help you become a better host and learn how to scale your business. Like any exceptional host, we all strive for 5-star reviews, so please go on over to iTunes and let us know what you enjoy, as it really helps support the show. If you haven't done so already, go on over to our Facebook group, The Host Nation, to connect with the community and other professional hosts that have been featured on this show. Hey, Host Nation, I wanted to apologize with this episode as the audio on my side is not going to sound that good. I accidentally deleted my podcast audio, so it sounds a little bit funky coming through my webcam microphone, so I'm sorry for that. I need to slow down and not do Control-A, then delete before I put the files in the appropriate spots. So lesson learned, but I am sorry for this episode. Please bear with me. Today I had the honor of speaking with Tyann Marcink. Tyann is a powerhouse in the vacation rental community. She manages 10 properties, runs a photography business focused primarily on maximizing earnings with vacation rentals, is a community ambassador for Touchstay, co-founded the VR Mastered Bootcamp, and is a frequent speaker at vacation rental events, educating audiences on marketing and photography tips. In this conversation, Tyann shares her experience of over 13 years in the industry, as well as super actionable tips on how you can increase your short-term rental conversions and increase your profit by taking better photos. If you like my show notes for this episode, go to shorttermsage.com/STR21, or if you like my show notes sent directly to your inbox every week, then go to shorttermsage.com/show notes. With all that being said, on to this week's conversation. Welcome back, host. Today I have the special honor of speaking with Tyann Marcink. Tyann, would you please let the audience know a little bit more about who you are and what inspired you to get into short-term rentals?
Thanks so much for having me on the podcast. I am honored. I very much thank you. So what started was my parents began. So I guess I'm going on 13 years in the industry now. So they're just right at 15 years. And they decided to sell all of their long-term rentals and commercial properties and invested in the largest homes available in Branson, Missouri, which at that time was only 4 and 5 bedrooms, which 15 years ago, everybody thought they were crazy. And now everybody's like, what? Only 4, 5 bedrooms? That's it. So I saw that they were doing really well and was ready to diversify my investments and built the first place, Canyon Retreat. So it's been 13 years now since I put it up on a verbal listing, and we got it set up in November. That morning we walked out, and about 2 hours later, our first guest arrived.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now you have 13 years, so I mean you are an OG in this space, but you also are very heavily involved in the short-term rental community. Do you mind sharing some of the stuff that you have going on? I know that before we were recording, you gave a long list of some of the stuff that you have going on, like side businesses and stuff like that. So if you wouldn't mind just kind of giving a quick rundown of like the impact that you're doing in the short-term rental community, and then some of the other side projects, because I think that that's pretty interesting to your story, since you're managing 10 properties, or you're coming up on 10, but you also have a lot of other stuff going on. So if you wouldn't mind kind of giving a rundown.
Sure. So back, when I first started, that was when we only took checks. You could only reserve a vacation rental by sending a check in the mail. And I quickly realized that for someone to send me a check for thousands of dollars, 6 to 9 months in advance, never seeing the property except photos on a website, is really honestly the perfect scheme for a scam. And I'm like, okay, how do I lift the trust level for people to send me the money? So I immediately figured out it's the pictures. Taught myself photography, went on, and then decided a few years later, hey, I want to be the go-to person for vacation rental photography. I want to be the go-to person in the industry. So I wrote some ebooks. I talked to HomeAway and started speaking at the HomeAway summits on vacation rental photography, and then ended up speaking at other events like the Vacation Rental Success Summit, VRMA, and other ones, Vacation Rental World Summit, and spoke on vacation rental photography and marketing. And then it just expanded to where my friend and I, Alana Schroeder, the distinguished guest, we began the VR Mastered Vacation Rental Bootcamp a couple years ago and started doing intense 5-day training on marketing and best practices and workflow for hosts and managers. And then for a short time, 3 years, I was also a consultant with HomeAway on their hospitality app. And then after that, Touchstay brought me on board as their community ambassador.
Wow, you have quite a history. I don't think we've had anybody on the show that has such a rich, just how much you're involved in the community and what you have going on, working with HomeAway, being part of these vacation rental masterminds and events. I think that is just so cool. What do you think is the biggest, out of all the things that you've been to? I know this is probably going to be hard, but what do you think is the biggest key thing that you've kind of taken away from this?
Oh gosh. So the biggest thing, especially with events, is getting to know people, meeting people in the industry. It is huge. I mean, people think, oh my gosh, I don't want to spend $1,000. I don't want to spend $3,000. I don't want to go to an event and invest in that. Well, you know what? Just the energy you get from meeting your tribe is incredible. So there's some events that are better than other events, but honestly, all of them, if you just get away from the wall and take a step out and meet people, it's incredible finding your tribe. Because at home, there's just not a lot of hosts, owners, managers. They don't understand what you're going through. So once you connect, and it's different face-to-face versus online, because we got the social media, we got the groups on Facebook, things like that. That's completely different. It's that face-to-face with another human that understands what you're going through that is incredible.
Yeah, I saw there's lots of people even one of the Richard Furtick starting another type of meetup group or event. I'm just curious. So what is really the big difference from people that are going to be going to an event that they couldn't maybe take away from maybe these online groups? Why go to an event? What's going to be really different?
Sure. So an event, like I said, is face-to-face. It's not pictures. It's not video. You're not, there's something about being in the same room with a person, sitting across the table from a person, sitting next to them, and getting in that group. And you feel the energy of the people, and you can see their expressions, and you can have a conversation. It's not like a Zoom meeting, and it's just so different. And that's one of the things with Vacation Rental Bootcamp that we do. This is our 4th one coming up this fall. And we have, I think it's 11 or 12 alum coming back. It's either the 2nd time, 3rd time, and Kathy's been to every single boot camp since we started. And she goes, it's a family reunion is what it is. Because you get to know the people and you find support, you found your tribe, and you connect with people. The good thing about all the different types of events and the different types of mentors and the teachers and the people putting on these different events is all of these people also have a different personality and a different teaching method. So when you're looking for an event to go to, make sure you connect with whoever's organizing it and putting it on, that your personalities gel, their teaching method is the way you like to learn too. It just makes a world of difference, because what I remind people is, if we were all the same, wouldn't life just be so boring? Yeah, we're all different. So find what gels best with you.
I love that. It's a really, really helpful advice when looking, because there's a growing amount of events going out there, and it's maybe which event should I go to? But I really like what you said about, you want to find the hosts that will be at those events that really resonate and speak with you. That way you can take away and just the amount of networking and being face to face. I think that is so cool. You mentioned you have quite an interesting backstory with building banks with vaults. Do you mind kind of talking about that and how that has influenced your building of your short-term rentals?
Yeah, so about 2 years ago, I realized that I was ready to add on another property, and I started looking around for a property, and I wanted to be more my home base. So I'm about an hour west of St. Louis, over in Missouri wine country. And I started looking around and thought, I want something unique. And it's when I walk into the place, I've got to say this is it. Otherwise, it doesn't work. And generally, I like to build a place. That's my personal preference. So I've built several, I've rehabbed several. And a friend of mine, she said, hey, there's this old 1900 bank building that used to be a dentist office that is now for sale. It's been for sale for almost a year now. Why don't you go take a look at it? So I thought, okay, that's cool. And then I looked at the location. I said, oh my gosh, it is this little tiny town right on the Katy Trail. And the Katy Trail is the largest rails to trails project in the United States. So it's 237 miles of a bike trail. So there's starting to look at the stats. It's like, okay, there's 90,000 people that come through every summer. And then I look at how many beds are available and the location of this. It's like, okay, this little town of Marthasville has exact location for either your first night of the trip after you've left, going from east to west. Also the good location for your last night if you're going from the west side of the state to the east side of the state. So I thought, okay, this is cool. I've always loved the Katy Trail since I was a little girl. And riding that, I thought, oh, it'd be so cool to live right here on the Katy Trail. And so when I saw the property was there, I thought, okay, that's cool. It's an historic building. It's in a location that's awesome. It's not a huge price, but the problem with the price is because it's a reflection of the area. The area was flooded in 1993 when we had the massive flooding of the Missouri and Mississippi rivers, and it's in the downtown area. And so it's also a very depressed area. And looking at it, I thought, you know what? Why not invest in the community by rehabbing this place and trying to bring visitors to it? Because that's one of the things I like to do is I invest in people. And I thought, okay, here's a community that I can invest in. So I looked at it, I walked in, and it hit me. I'm like, this is it. And my realtor's looking at me like, what are you talking about? I'm like, no. This is the perfect property. And she looks at me like, okay, you're going to have to explain a little more what you're thinking because this does not look like what you're wanting. I'm like, no, this is perfect. So the next step was then to find a contractor that saw my vision as well. And I knew I'd pay a little more for that, and I'm happy to do that when it's excellent work. And I found someone who understood my vision and was right on, gave me my estimates and did the property, and loved walking into the building and they say, hey boss, how's it going? Hey boss, we got a question. So that it was really awesome, looking through and figuring out which walls to tear down because, like I said, it was a dentist office. So there was a lot of pipes to take out from underneath from all the different sinks and things like that. But the end of the project is just phenomenal.
That is a lot of work. And, what are you doing when you're looking at a property? Because you said it was in a depressed area. Maybe there's hosts out there that they're familiar with their area, but maybe there's just an area that maybe there's not like a whole lot of visitors, or maybe it's just not in an area that people could imagine. That maybe they could imagine it, but there's just nobody there right now. What are you doing when you're analyzing an area to really make sure that the investment that you're putting into that community is able to pay for itself?
Yeah, sure. So when I look at the area, I look beyond the immediate area. So here in Missouri, all our small towns are tied together. So I'm looking actually several miles across the river over in Washington, Missouri, which does bring in a lot of tourism. But Marthasville, even though it's a town of 1,100 people, it looks pretty run down. And I've had comments from guests too, and they say, we arrived at night. It felt a little sketchy at first, but once the sun rose in the morning, we realized that it's an amazing little farming community. And when I started my project too, there were many residents, farther away from the main area where I was at, the downtown area, and other people in the area. They said, why? Who's going to come to little old Marthasville? And, that's when I kept telling them, okay, we've got the Katy Trail. You have 90,000 people riding by on a bicycle every summer. You're not just this awesome, sleepy little town. You do have people coming through. And guess what? They're from all over the world, not just from 10 miles away. These are people from all over the world who make it a bucket trip list to come through here. So why not show hospitality to them? There's 2 great restaurants within walking distance. So you have Philly's Pizza, the best pizza in the county, and that's literally 2 doors away. So they get to know us very well, and almost every review mentions them as well. We stayed at the bank house and we had pizza and it was awesome. And then, you've got Corey's Twin Gables that has live music and specials almost every single night. And they cater to the bicyclist and the motorcyclist. And, when you get into a small town community and you're supporting them, the Chamber of Commerce, they're very, very supportive, sharing events and things like that and talking about my place. It's not like a big city. There's not so much suspicion. And the one thing I try to do is be transparent as possible with the community as well, and let them know what my plans are, to let them know I'm here to support them. And if there's any issues, here's my contact information. It's very easy to find me. There's a residential home next door. So I talked to them and made sure they knew that I had the noise sensor inside the bank too, because it's a cool space and I want to attract larger groups. It's 4 bedrooms, sleeps 12 people, handicapped, wheelchair accessible. The other thing I was looking for in the area is wedding venues. We're a community that when you hold a wedding, you're looking at least 200 to 300 people to attend. And that's a small wedding. Families here are not just 1 or 2 kids. You're talking 3 to 5 kids to 7 kids. And then you've got the aunts and uncles and cousins and, putting together my reception list, it was already 70 people was just family on my side. That doesn't include my husband's side or our friends or church family or anything like that. So there's not enough lodging for when there's weddings. So looking at whatever wedding venues are around. And we have one just 2 miles down the road. And so we formed a partnership with them. It's actually where we ended up having our wedding reception as well and building those relationships.
I just think that is so cool that you have been very heavily invested in the community. I think where people are kind of going now, at least kind of the picture that I've kind of been seeing, is that people are very afraid of letting other people know about their short-term rental ventures because they're afraid that maybe the that county is just going to come down on them and say, hey, you're not allowed to do this, or that their neighbors are going to say, we don't like what you're doing. And so there's a lot of fear involved in that. What is the benefit, would you say, the biggest benefits of getting the community and the even the county involved?
For sure. The first thing is always check regulations and ordinances first before doing anything else. That way, you are in the clear that what you can do is within the rules. And if they have any permit processes, find out about them, proceed with them. My first one that I did in a residential area was actually a little 2-bedroom house that was a long-term rental. Then I found out the tenants were dealing drugs. And I'm like, no. Immediately got them kicked out. Missouri has great rules for when there's illegal activities. I mean, it's within days you'd have them out. And as much money as I had to put into it to just make it livable again, I thought, hey, let's throw a couple $1,000s of furnishings in there and see what happens. It's our little town's very first and only vacation rental, short-term rental. See what happens. Talk to the city, and they're like, yeah, there's nothing on the books. Go for it. And I said, okay, business licenses, things like that. So they told me what to do. Then I held an open house. To me, that's a big thing. I invited all the neighbors. I invited the city. I invited local businesses. I said, hey, come to my open house, see what the property is like. And in doing so, it gets the neighbors and communities knowing what's going on. They have my contact information. And then I let them know, hey, when you have family come into town, we know you have big families. You don't have large spaces at home. Here's the extra space. So for instance, that Christmas I hosted someone's family that came over from New Zealand, and their family lived 2 blocks away. And they were so appreciative to be able to stay in a place that was, one, a home, and two, so close to where their family was. So it worked out really well so that the families could have their own spaces. So, being completely transparent, open, inviting the community and the city in. It was just wonderful to have the city administrator actually come to the open house, walk through the house, and say, hey, we will support you. Just let us know what we can do to help. And then even last night, somebody goes on Facebook and says, hey, we have family coming into town for these dates. Anybody know of anything? And then I get all these tags. Hey, Tyanns caught something. Hey, yeah, here's Tyanns. Here's her places. It's really such a benefit to make sure you're on the up and up. Don't try to slide under the radar. It's not worth it at all.
I just think that is so cool. The amount of transparency that you have had has just come back in turnfold. You've just been receiving so much generosity from the community and from other people's. I think that a lot of operators are getting into this space and they're just trying to slide their rentals in there, and then that's creating they're afraid, but then everybody else recognizes that they're also hiding something and that they're afraid as well, which makes maybe the county and the administrators, the council members, also suspicious of what they're doing. And I'm sure that they're not doing it with ill intent, but it's just the place that they're coming from, having to keep this to themselves, that it's now they're going to look at that as being a suspicious thing that is going to be causing all these issues and not increasing the amount of community involvement or not bettering the neighborhood. I just think that is so cool. But what a lot of people that are just maybe just starting off, they're getting onto Airbnb, they're getting onto one of these OTAs and not doing it like a bed and breakfast or anything. When you listed your property and got the county involved, were you setting up this business structure and putting it on Google Maps, or was there more involved to it, or were you just putting it on an OTA, online travel agency?
Right in the beginning, I started with my own website, booking direct as well. There's all these different steps, and no one should feel lowly or less than if they don't have book direct right away, or if they don't have Google My Business right away. There's so many steps. You have to start slow. You're going to go crazy. And that's one of the things we do talk about in Vacation Rental Bootcamp is you start out with a good foundation and take the steps only as fast as you are able to. And the way you walk is not going to be the same way that I walk. It's not going to be the same way as somebody else on Facebook walks. Someone might look at my success and be like, oh my gosh, people are contacting her and giving her properties to manage left and right. What's going on? She's doing a crazy, I've been doing this for 13 years and I've built my reputation for so long. I've been speaking at conferences and industry events for 6 years. It's a very long road. And the short-term rental space, you'll see a lot of things pop up. Hey, make money overnight. Hey, this is a quick, rich thing. You can lay on the beach all day and just the Airbnb chime's going to go off with all these deposits. No, it's a lot of work. And it's a lot more work than a long-term rental as well. I've been a landlord. I hate it. I sold my last long-term rental property. I was so happy, and put that money towards the lots that I'm building a 10-bedroom house on. And I want to talk to the people that want to pay me, $1,600 a night instead of $600 a month. I want to talk to those people, but it's a lot more work. It's a lot more investment, high risk, high reward, high time input, but again, high reward. It's just a lot of time. It's not easy.
I wanted to hit you. You've been in the space for quite a while, and you have just a wealth of knowledge. One of the myths that you kind of are saying is a myth is you have a lower occupancy being 55%, but what you also said is that the bottom line matters more. So can you kind of break this myth of that you need to have an 80, 90, 100% occupancy, otherwise you're not a good operator?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So my occupancy in Branson is 55% people. It is not possible, not even remotely possible, to be 90 to 100%. Unless you're literally giving away the nights. So every location has different occupancy numbers. I was recently in Orlando for business, shooting a vacation rental property, and I thought, hey, let's just look at the returns, because everyone says Orlando's number one place to invest. Well, I'm looking at this and I'm running the numbers, and just because you have 90% occupancy in Orlando does not mean you're going to have a better net at the end of the day. And when you're looking at 90%, they're only putting their rate at $250 to $300 a night for a large 6-7 bedroom home with private pool and spa. So yeah, they're getting it, but their net numbers are no better than my Branson numbers if I compare a 5-bedroom house at 55% occupancy, in the summer, I'm getting $3,400 a week. I can't even give away nights at $150 a night during the winter season, So, and I know people in Michigan, it's like, you just shut your house down during the off season because simply nobody comes, and it costs more to run the utilities than anything. So you got to look at that bottom number. And then the other part to look at is, if you have high occupancy, you're also going to have more wear and tear on your property. So that means more expenses, replacing your linens, replacing your towels, replacing a broken chair, consumables, all of that adds up. So in my mind I'd rather have the lower occupancy at the higher rate, because then people take better care of my place. So I have less expenses going out, and then my bottom number is better.
One of the big things that you said that I really want people to hear again, and I'd like for you to maybe talk a little bit more about, is that you said that there's like hot destinations right now, like Orlando, Miami, and everybody's touting like, oh, this is the place that you need to go. Everybody's traveling here. I have 100%, blah, blah, blah. But you're saying that there's places where like there's only like 11,000 people that live there, that you're actually doing better in those smaller locations than maybe these more, these hot locations. What is that, just like across the board, or like how do you know that a lower occupancy in a not as maybe heavily visited area will actually kind of do better than the locations that have a lot of people operating in it?
You really have to dig into the numbers and talk to the people that are in that area. My go-to would be Vrolio, with Erica Muller, Vrolio.com. Look at her data and see what she has, she's putting out there. I know soon she's going to be releasing their top 3 places to invest in the United States, and I'll let her release that info because I don't want to leak it. But I can tell you, you've got to dig deep into the numbers and really talk to the people on the ground there. Talk to the managers. Don't just look at scraped information across the board from these different companies. I know there's a few out there that say, hey, we've got all the statistics. Well, guess what? You don't know when owners and managers block something for maintenance. All you see is block dates. You don't know that they're booked or not. You don't know the rate that they're booked. So there's a lot of data that you can get just by talking to the local people. And talk to the groups of people. There's more and more host groups that are forming. And I think those are so valuable, because then you can trade information as far as, okay, when's our high season? When's our low season? Hey, there's an event coming up. I try to be involved with the St. Louis hosts and really encourage and support them. And I saw, gymnastics Olympic trials are coming to St. Louis. And as soon as that was released, I'm like, hey guys, check this out, make sure your rates are secured a little bit higher for that time, even though it's 2 years off. You want to make sure you get that little bit of extra, and really support each other. So when you're looking at a destination, you've got your realtor, but your realtor might not know the vacation rental industry like mine here at home. She's learning the vacation rental industry. And look at Verolio and look at their map, and then regulations, huge thing. Don't even go any further after you think your numbers will work out. Then check regulations over and over. I mean, double, triple check them, because they're also always changing.
Now, you've got this media company that does with vacation rentals. What type of advice would you give to people that they are listing their property and they want to get these like beautiful photos, or where do you start when it comes to photography? Like you're the photography expert in this space, so if you wouldn't mind just imparting some wisdom on people that are listing their properties, what are some of the do's and don'ts that we should be doing?
So the first thing you want to do is actually get my free ebook, TyannMarcink.com/ebooks. Get the free one first. That is your 10 tips to get your house ready, because the importance, as they say, the devil is in the details, and it really points out what details to be aware of. The other thing is number one, you always want to get professional photos. However, you're not always in the position to do that right off, and that is okay. That is okay. I want to make sure hosts know, don't stress out that you can't go hire a professional right away. It's okay. So what you need to do is just be aware of how you are taking your photos first, because there's a lot of moving pieces to getting photos. You've got to have an open time. You've got to have your time to go do it, or to hire somebody, and then you've got to work on their schedule, and then the lighting, and oh my gosh, there's so many different things. So it's perfectly fine to start off on your own. Look at the details of it. If you want to go a step further, I've got another ebook that tells you in detail how to go a step further on yourself. But the important thing is to remember, whatever camera you do use, the most important part of that camera is the 12 inches behind it. That's you. I can do better photos with my iPhone than other people can do with a professional DSLR if they don't know how to use the camera.
So what about there's like people are getting into the space and maybe they don't have like this beautiful vacation rental. They don't maybe they're just listing a room, or maybe they don't have the money to be able to get those nice white laminate cabinets with the granite countertop. They're just kind of renting a space that it isn't the most attractive. How can people take photos that really kind of make the place more welcoming or accepting? Or do you have to do a complete renovation and get this beautiful space in order to be able to be in this space?
One, clean your place up first. I've had folks contact me and they say, okay, we want to hire you for photos. And I'm like, okay, send me your link. Let me look. And I'm like, okay, honestly, your investment in me taking your photos is not going to help anything. You need to invest your money first in your property. One, it's got to be clean. It's got to be clean. No mold showing anywhere. You've got to get rid of it. If you've got holes in the wall, if you've got cleaning supplies strung out, if you've got clutter everywhere, it's not going to help at all. If you've got grandma's dingy recliner that grandpa sat in for 30 years, yes, it's sentimental to you. Yes, it might still feel comfortable to you, but get rid of it. Get rid of it. You can go on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace and get something from somebody moving that is in a lot better shape. Okay, so yes, sometimes you do have to freshen up your space better. And then there's a fine line between being minimal and being so much clutter. Less is more for sure. But don't go so sparse that it no longer feels welcome either. My go-to mentors for that would be Alana Schroeder with The Distinguished Guest, and then Megan McCrae with The Hospitality Creator. And both of them have put out lots and lots of articles and information, and they have services to help hosts and managers to really focus on that. So, they are my go-tos, and they help me with my properties as well. So when a photographer wants, you're ready to hire a photographer, and you think, okay, I'm ready to hire somebody. How much money should I spend? Because that's where hosts say, oh my gosh, how much money? You want me to spend how much money? And when you look at the number, in some people's eyes, $100 is too much. In other people's eyes, $100 is not enough. They say, what's wrong? You're not good enough. When I talk to my clients, I tell them, what is your nightly rate at your highest point? And sometimes it's $100, sometimes it's $1,500. And I say, okay, if these new photos are going to get you 2 nights additional at your highest rate, is it worth it? Well, yeah, it's worth it. I could totally get easy 2 more nights. They're like, so why are you complaining about, someone charging you for photos? Think about it and how many nights it would take you to recoup that investment. One of my very first photo shoots, I only charged $500, in which to other people like, oh my gosh, $500 for a 4-bedroom house. That's crazy. Now it's also $500 plus travel expenses too on that one. So, however, looking at the data of what happened with those brand new photos, the next year, the client went from $25,000 gross before the new photos to $60,000 gross with the new photos. Now, you give me a chance to invest $500 to make over $25,000. I am there every single day of the year. So thinking about photography and how much you should spend for photography, don't look at the number as just a number, but look at it in number of nights and what your rate is. To get me out there, it's going to cost you a lot of money. It's pretty expensive. However, your return on investment will be incredible. Now, I can't promise that, 100% for sure. And same with any other professional photographer. But you've got to look at it as this is an investment and how is it going to come back? And it always, always comes back multitude.
Now, Tyann, you're kind of the expert in the field of vacation rental photography. So what about people that aren't like vacation rental property experts? When you're going out there and you're hiring someone that is maybe just, they say that I'm a photographer, I'm a professional photographer. I can take photos of your place for, however much. What should hosts maybe be letting the photographer know? Because not everybody, this is very niche, very niche.
Sure. For sure.
So what should hosts be letting the photographers know to be able to get those photos that will be able to increase their bookings?
For sure. So one, photographers, generally all professional photographers, can get a well-exposed photo. Okay. The next point is it's got to be composed properly. That's huge. So your composition and your lighting will make a huge difference. And even a real estate photographer is different than a vacation rental photographer. So looking at your end goal, what is the goal of these photos? Well, when you're looking at realtor photos, you got a real estate photographer come in, the end goal of those photos is to get somebody to the property, to step foot in the property, look at the house, and buy the property. The goal of the vacation rental photos is to get someone to look at the photos, imagine themselves in the photos, then spend the money to go there, and lastly, step into the space and be like, wow, this is exactly like the photos. So there are different composition tips that you've got to do to create the photos in a way that invites the person into the space and realistically shows the space as well. And you're telling a story too. So there's more marketing involved. It's not just a well-exposed photo. It's not walking into the room and going click, 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 click. Okay, see ya, I'm done. There's a lot more to that. And like I said earlier, it's in the details as well. I've had clients who they say, hey, Tyann, we'd love to hire you, but it's just not possible between our schedules. So we found a photographer nearby. We like their portfolio. So that's a big thing, is look through their portfolio, make sure that they've done vacation rentals. If they haven't, then you'll probably end up with a lower price, which might better fit your budget, which is fine. Just make sure their style is the way you like it as well. And then I've had clients actually buy my ebooks and give them to the photographer and say, okay, this is what we want. This is how you do it. I'm not a photographer. I don't understand, but I know this is great information. Can you read this and learn it and then come shoot our property? So, that's how I've seen some people do it as well. And then I've had many photographers reach out to me and say, okay, I've got this gig. What do I do? Which, hey, that is awesome. Go out and, host managers need photos. We need more photographers who know how to do this space. So they'll reach out and I'll say, okay, here's the book. Here's my video course if you learn better that way. And then I've been to a photography conference. It was an international conference and taught vacation rental photography there as well. But like I said in the beginning, when you start out, or even if you're in this space for 5 years and you're just now realizing how important photos are, it's okay to take steps. You don't have to go straight to the top with professional photography. You don't have to do that. You can improve your cell phone photos first. Next, find a high school student or college student who's learning photography and have them do it next. Then find a great real estate photographer and have them do it next. And just build your way up if needed.
So Tyann, you said, something really key that you said was that with the real estate photos, you're just trying to get someone into the property. With the vacation rental photos, you're trying to allow the person to imagine that they are there and that this is going to be an experience. So for a person that is trying to take these optimal photos to be able to better book their listing, what type of things should they maybe be highlighting to be able to create or invoke this experience? Should there be more like amenities, or should it be just like a big photo of the bed or that one chair in the corner? Like what should people be highlighting in their photos?
All of it. But it also comes into the point of directing someone through a house. So when you create the photos, you've got to be able to show those doorways and showing the floor plan of the house as you walk through them. And then it's also up to the host or manager to put the photos in an order that walks someone through the house. So when I look through a listing and I see, okay, here it starts with a picture of the bedroom, and then it shows a picture of the living room, and now here's a picture of outside. Oh, and now here we're at the kitchen. It's all, our brains don't follow that very well. So you have to keep in mind just human psychology and how our brains work. So when I put my photos in order, I'll do, you start it from your golden photo first, and then you walk them through the house. And I'll do like a whole room shot and then a detail shot. So it might be the whole bedroom, and then it might be a photo of half the bed with the nightstand. Just, showing those hospitality details, I think, is really important. But don't go overkill either, because if you do just a lot of detail shots, then people don't really get a sense of the space itself as well.
And what's a good example of like a wow photo?
It depends on the property. It honestly does. So like my wow photo for the bank is the great room photo, showing the chandelier and the brick wall in the background and the vault off to the side. One of my favorite wow photos is for a property I shot in Palm Springs several years ago. And it's right at sunset twilight hour, and it's over the pool with the pool lights on and the fire, at its height, because she's got a big long fire pit. And then you've got the lounge chairs right there with the umbrella. So it's, behind the chairs, and that's my signature shot, is always behind the chair looking into a view. So that is a wow photo, between the composition and the colors and just creating that space where someone looks at it and says, oh my gosh, I want to be there. I want to be in that chair. I want to be sitting and looking at that sunset over the pool, and then the mountains in the background. It's just incredible. So it varies on your property. Not everybody has a pool. None of my properties have a pool. I have a neighborhood pool, but, you've got to choose what is it that's unique about your property. But then on the other hand, think about what is your target guest? Because if you're trying to target, romantic weekends, you don't want to put a pile of beach toys on the sand is your lead photo. Okay, you don't want to attract the kids. But if you're trying to attract families with kids, that might be the better photo of the beach chairs out there with the toys and the umbrella, and you're right there on the beach with those types of items. So you really have to be careful and aware when you're choosing your photos who your target guest is and your location and what your property has to offer. It's all these things rolled together.
I think just what you're saying is just so key, because I don't think maybe a lot of people think about the photos very in depth. They just think, oh, I'm going to take the my phone and click, get some wide angle shots, and we're good to go. But really, what you're saying is the photos. It's like this is the first step when someone is looking at your property. This is your selling point. You're creating the experience, and we talk a lot. We talk a lot about like branding and niche and trying to find your target audience. But really, it seems like the photos is kind of where you have to start off, and that's where you kind of mold the guest experience, and you weed out the people that maybe are trying to find those beach rentals, but you might be by the beach, but that maybe isn't your niche. Maybe you're trying to create a romantic getaway, so that's what you're highlighting. I think that is just so good, so key. Is there anything different that you would do if you had to start from scratch? I know you've been in the space for a little while now, so is there some things that if you could go back and you have all the knowledge from these vacation rental summits and everything, if you could go back now and redo this, what would you do differently?
So I would have started with white linens and white towels.
Really? out of all the things you've learned, it's white linens and white towels.
That's just one of the most practical things. And I know I bucked it in the beginning. I went with ivory sheets, which is okay, for my king beds. And then I did taupe colored linens for the sofa sleepers. I thought, okay, different colors would be easier for the cleaners and everything. Then I went with tan towels. Well, guess what happens when teenagers stay at your place and they have acne medication on their face? Yeah, your tan towels now have big, bright orange splotches all over them. I mean, they're clean, but they've been bleached out in these spaces. And honestly, I tried not to do it, but after, I think it was like 9 years of that. I went 9 years. And then I finally switched over to commercial linens and towels. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so much better. And it's just, it looks, it's cleaner, it's brighter, it looks better in photos, So that's one of the practical things that I would start over with. The other thing I would start is using a reservation management system right away. I was everything by hand and calendar for many, many years. And you only double book someone once. And then you get software. So just start off with software,
That, I guess the big question now is from these years of experience and now knowing that you have to use white towels and linens, where do you get your towels and linens? Is there like a specific location that has the best of the best, or what has Tyann found?
Yes. So what I found is I go to my friend, the distinguished guest, and she has herself, tested all of these different linens and all these different products. And, she's a vacation rental host as well for almost as long as I have been. And her goal is to find those best products that are reasonably priced and to withstand the use that vacation rentals put these things through. So those things are very important for me. So I started using the linens and towels that she recommended. And one of my favorite parts was that they come pre-washed. So when they arrive, I don't have to unpackage and run everything to the washer and dryer and then refold them and then they can be used. They arrive, you open the box, you start using them. So to me, the saving of time is valuable.
And where do you get those linens?
It would be, I think the company name is Standard Textile. But specific ones, you'll have to go to the distinguished guest and look at her site and see which ones. Because there's all different levels as well. I use the basic commercial ones, and then there's more luxury ones too. It's just for my properties, the basic ones are good. They are solid, they last, and I don't need that extra expense because I'm not in that luxury space.
And if you could give one piece of advice to someone who's trying to start a short-term rental business, what would that be?
Number one, check your regulations. Number two, get the appropriate insurance. Definitely get the appropriate insurance. It does not mean you can skate by on just your homeowner's insurance. You've got to get specific short-term rental insurance. And then number three is get a mentor. Find someone you connect with. Like I said earlier, everybody's different. Everybody has learns differently, and everybody teaches differently. So find a mentor that you connect with. Ideally, someone who's been around a while. They may be in your local area. They may not be in your local area, but look online, read their stuff. If they got videos, watch videos. But really find someone you connect with and their style and their philosophy. Because everybody's got a different philosophy of how things are to be run. For me, I'm not in the short-term game. I'm not here to make a lot of money real quick. I'm in the long-term game. I want to invest in my properties. I want to invest in the communities. I want to invest in my guests. It's so awesome when one of my very first guests contacted me last year, and they said, "Hey, we stayed at your place for Grandpa's 90th birthday. And this next year he's turning 100 and we want to come back." That's the things I invest in. And yeah, it's a long-term game, costs a lot of money, got to be slow. But when you're slow and deliberate, as they say, the turtle wins the race. And I very much value my time with my family as well. So I'm perfectly fine with making some decisions that are better for my family versus for my business. So, to keep in mind when you do start your own business, it's hard. It is freaking hard. And I've started a couple of my own businesses, and my boys have grown up with that. And it's hard to just be aware that when you leave a 40-hour job, you're leaving it for 80 plus hours of work. Okay. When you work for yourself, it's more work. It's not less work. It's just, I found it works for me because it makes my time more flexible. So I can take my kids to school every day. I can pick them up from school every day. I can be the room mom that throws the parties. I can go on the field trips. I can make sure I'm at baseball games. But that does mean sometimes I'm working at midnight, answering questions or filling out templates or working on my reservation management system or editing photos. So just be aware of how it totally changes the structure of your life and if that really is truly what you want. Because again, everybody's different. We're all different, and it's okay.
No, that's the one of the great things that I love about this show is the diversity of the types of hosts that we have on here. We have hosts that are in more the money game. We have hosts that are doing property management. Everybody has their own unique success story, and I think that it's just so interesting to get this diverse group. And we're all in this space, but we all have our own uniqueness to that we can definitely be able to provide it to guests. And I'm curious, where do you see short-term rentals going in the future?
Definitely more mainstream, even more so than now. The thing is oh gosh, it was, I guess, 5-6 years ago, HomeAway put out the statistic that only 30% of travelers even knew vacation rentals existed. Obviously, that statistic is no longer because more and more people, know that short-term rentals, vacation rentals, holiday rentals, holiday lets, self-catering cottage, whatever you want to call it, is available. And the thing is once someone travels and tastes that way of traveling and they have a good experience, because there are bad experiences, once they have a good experience, it's addicting. And they want to travel more like that. And honestly, I don't see it as yes, it's a competition to other ways of lodging, but it's also very complementary because everybody travels for a different reason and with a different group of people. I love staying at hotels. I love staying at resorts. But when I travel with my kids, they get their own space. I get my own space. And when you're traveling with teenagers or young adults or young kids, you can't have two different hotel rooms, that are separated. And it's very difficult to get hotel rooms with a door between them. So it's not feasible for me to travel with my children and stay at, a hotel room. I don't want to leave teenage boys on their own. I want them in the same condo or house with me. But when I'm traveling with my husband, totally, give me a resort that has food ready for me right outside my door, or greets me at the hotel desk with a mimosa or something, as people travel more and more. And that's one of the things I see happening in the future is people traveling more and more. The generations coming up, they're going to be traveling more and more. There's becoming more digital nomads. People are freelancing. People are working remotely, and they're traveling more. So depending upon what type of lodging they want, the way they want to travel, they'll choose the type of thing they want. And then, as we said earlier, everybody's got different personalities. Some prefer the high service of a hotel resort, or maybe they prefer just a place with the light on like Motel 6, and they don't care as long as it's clean. Everybody's different. But yes, I see the short-term rental space absolutely growing as the consumer demand grows. Because we are in the US, it's all economics, it's supply and demand. And people worry about a place getting oversaturated with short-term rentals. Well, you know what? Free economics is going to take care of that. And pricing will then go down, and as the demand goes down or reaches its tipping point, it's basic economics that you learn in high school.
Very nice. And what is something, this might be something that might stump you, but just with the amount of experience that you have, but what is a question that maybe you have that you are kind of working on, or that you would maybe ask another professional host about, something that is kind of maybe sitting on your mind?
Gosh, should have prepped me for this one, because there are questions I have. I don't know it all. I am always learning, and one of the things I do is I'm always trying to educate myself better, learning from other people, and whether it's people more experienced or people less experienced, and just have a fresh view on different things. The other thing I do is I try to look at other industries and absorb what's going on and the workflows and marketing and different things that they're doing, and then seeing how I can apply that to my vacation rentals or to my photography business or to Touchstay digital welcome books. If there's some new idea that someone has, I'd love to hear it, even just to brainstorm it and walk through it. And maybe we can figure out how to apply it somewhere. Something I would ask someone else. I have an appointment with Megan McRae, the hospitality creator, tomorrow. And I'm going to ask her, what is the thing I need to focus on for my 10-bedroom house? It's overwhelming to me to do the interior design. I've got a sense of what I want and the feelings I want it to convey, but making that plan and the steps and simply, okay, what's the best type of lighting for this? And this is the style I want, but I don't know what light to use, The thing is you don't know what you don't know. And the older I get, they say wisdom comes with age. So I'm getting wiser. And the fact that I am so happy to find someone with the skills I do not have, or with better skills than the low skills that I have, and pay them. I value them. And I think a lot of people don't understand that, especially in the marketing and service industry. They don't value those types of people. But it's so important to value them so those skills don't get lost. You need those skills. You do. And like we talked about photos, people just throw photos up there. Guess what? Photos is the number one thing your guests see first. You have got to value those. I value my plumber immensely, especially when my basement leaked last week. I'm on the phone with him, my basement, like, I need you, please. I value his skills, just like you value an electrician. It's so important. Anyway, I probably didn't quite answer your question, but
No, that was great. That was a good question. What do you do? What do you do when you have such a large unit that needs to be decorated well? That seems like a very overwhelming thing to have to consider. Like, how is each room going to be distinguished, and how are you going to create this type of environment for such a big unit? I think that's a really good question for people that are maybe operating larger units. But thank you so much, Tyann, for taking the time and just sharing just the amount of wisdom and wealth of knowledge that you have. I'm very honored and humbled to be able to have talked with you. And until next time, Host Nation, keep on hosting.
Hope you hosts benefited from the show. If you found value, please go on over to iTunes, leave us a review, and let us know what you enjoy about the show. If you'd like to talk to hosts that have been featured in these episodes as well as the community, go on over to our Facebook group, The Host Nation. Talk to you hosts in the next episode. Keep on hosting.